Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Thanks for joining me. I am back today with a new bonus layout and video for the Cut Shop. It was recently discussed in the Cut Shop Facebook group on what people thought about print and cuts, and there were a few people that were interested in having tutorials. So Ashley is creating a tutorial for Silhouette users, and I am creating a tutorial for Cricut users. So my video today is going to be all about how to upload and cut a print and cut file in Cricut Design Space. That Summer Sizzle file that I'm going to be using today is a freebie print and cut that Ashley is offering in the Cut Shop's Facebook group. So I will make sure to post a link to that in the description box below so you can head over and download it. Uploading a print and cut is basically the same steps as uploading a cut file. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click the upload icon, which is on the far left side of the screen. It's the very last option. When you get to the next screen, you're going to click upload image, and then you're going to select browse. Then you'll need to go into your computer wherever you're keeping your print and cuts that you've downloaded. Find what you're wanting to upload into Cricut Design Space. This screen will be the next screen that comes up. I select complex because there are multiple colors on this print and cut. When you get to this screen, there's really not going to be any cleanup for you to do because it's going to come as a PNG file, and Ashley's PNGs already come on a transparent background. Now, once you get to this screen, you can check your cut lines, and as you can see, it is going to cut this image exactly how I want it. It's showing some nice solid shapes there. You do want to make sure that you do keep it selected as a print and cut, which is the option on the left-hand side. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just typing in some tags. I do this for every upload that I bring into Design Space. It just makes it much easier when I am searching for images. Then once you have your tags typed in, go ahead and click save, and then it'll show you that it is in your recently uploaded. Go ahead and select it, and it will open it into the design screen. Now, once it opens, you will need to resize it, and there are size limitations when it comes to print and cut with Cricut Design Space. You cannot print it as a full 12 by 12 background. So the largest print and cut size is 9¼ inches by 6¾ inches. So you want to make sure that when you're resizing it that you're fitting it within those parameters. Now, after I resized it, I felt like the images looked really small, and I was concerned about how small they may be once I got them printed. So what I went ahead and did is I inserted a template using the Scrapbook layout. So that's going to insert a 12 by 12 box on the design screen. And that just really helps me with visual representation on how large these images actually will be when I'm ready to use them on my layout. Sometimes I even like to insert a shape, whether it be a 4 by 4 square or a 4 by 6 rectangle, just to use as a guide or a representation of what my photo will be. So that way I can see how big these icons will be when I position them next to my photo. Now, another thing that you can do if you're not wanting to print every icon that you see on the printable is you can separate the images and make them larger, make them smaller. You just need to make sure that you stick within those sizing parameters that I had posted earlier in the video. So to separate the image, you just use the slice feature. You'll insert a shape, position it on top of the printable, hold down the shift key while selecting the shape and the printable, and then go down to slice, and that will remove a portion of the printable, and then you can make it larger, you can make it smaller, and really customize it to how you're wanting to use it on your layout. Now, I just want to print everything the size that it originally was with that upload. So I'm just going to undo until I get back to where I was and go ahead and delete those extras off the design screen. So now I'm ready to get this printable cut, but the first thing that I need to do is just click the Make It button just like you normally would with a cut file. Then this next screen that comes up is going to show you basically your print preview. So you can see that there is now a black rectangle around the outside edge of that printable, and that is the registration marks that your Cricut will use to know where to cut. So once you are ready to print that, go ahead and click the green button underneath print, select the printer that you're wanting to use, and then go ahead and send it to your printer. So here you can see it printing, and you can see that it is printing with that black registration mark around the outside edge. Once it has finished printing, you're going to place it onto your cutting mat, and here I'm going to show you a preview of the cutting mat. So you want to position the print and cut in the very top left-hand corner of your cutting mat. Go ahead and load it into your machine just as you normally would and cut it on whatever setting you would normally use. I printed the print and cut on cardstock, so I am using the cardstock setting. And then you just load it into your machine like you normally would, as you can see here. And then what your Cricut will do is a light will turn on, and it's going to start to read that registration mark. So it's going to read it in a few different spots all along the outside edge. Once it has it read, it will go up and it'll just start cutting as it normally would. Now there is an option when you are sending this to your printer to leave the bleed on or turn the bleed off. What the bleed option is it prints the image a little bit larger than what it's actually going to cut it. So it will cut inside the image just a little bit, which you'll be able to see in just a moment here with that cactus. You can see how it is printing just a little bit inside the image, so there isn't going to be a white outline. I have never tried print and cut not leaving the bleed option on. I'm not sure how big of a white border it would leave if you want to leave the bleed option off. So that may be something that you could play around with and see how you like it. Okay, so at this point everything is cut, and now I just need to remove this from my cutting mat. So in just a moment I am going to show you all of the icons, and then I'm also going to show you that bleed a little bit closer. So here you can see that there's still a little bit of color left on that white cardstock after the images were cut. So that way there is no white outline on these images. I prefer to use my print and cuts that way. It's totally personal preference on how you want to use that option in print and cut. And again, that bleed option is available when you're selecting your printer, when you're still working within Cricut Design Space. So here are all of those fun images. I absolutely love them. They are the perfect colors to use for any summer layout. I absolutely love that flamingo. That's probably my favorite icon out of the whole set, but they're all very, very cute. So I know that I gave a reference to the size in Cricut Design Space when I inserted that 4x4 square, but I wanted to show you again the size of some of these printables with a 4x6 photo. So now I'm just bringing in some of those icons next to the photo just so you can get a better visual representation of how large they print. I do plan on uploading this portion of the video, the Cricut Design Space tutorial, all on its own as an individual video, just so that way it's easier. If you just want to come back to reference the tutorial, it'll be easier for you to find, and I am hoping to have that up for you by tomorrow. So I plan on mixing the printables with some of the Island Escape collection from Bella Boulevard. So I did use a cut file on that white cardstock, and that is the full circle cut file that is available from the cut shop. And then I backed it with one of the pattern papers from the Island Escape collection. Now I'm starting to bring in some of those printables just to kind of play around with placement. I thought about adding some hand stitching around the outside edge of that circle, but I didn't have that same exact blue color, and I was worried that the blue that I did have would clash. So I decided just to use white machine stitching and just went around the outside of that circle a few times just with some messy stitching. Now I decided that I'm going to add a couple clusters on this layout, one in the upper left hand corner and one in the lower right hand corner. And I wanted to add just a little bit of color to the background. So I'm going to add some clear gesso first, and that was what I was doing there. And then next I'm just going to come in with some packaging and a pink shimmers, spray it onto the packaging, and then just apply it to the background just to get a little bit of a watercolor look on the background. So as I was working on this layout, I was really trying to figure out what I needed to do with that white circle that's in the very center of the layout. I really felt like your eye was really drawn to that part of the layout, and I did not want to place my photo over it. I originally kind of had that thought in my head, but I didn't like the photo placement there, especially when I was planning on having the two clusters on the top left and the bottom right. So as I was trying to figure out what to do, I thought maybe I could put my title there, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to use as my title. And then I remembered that there were the words suntan included in the printable, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. And I can use that beach day banner and place it right in between those two words, and I can use that as my title. So I brought in a couple more of those banners, and I'm going to use it in the top left-hand cluster. I also grabbed that chipboard flower from that same Island Escape collection. I'm going to also bring in some die cuts from that collection. Now that pink flower that's on the top left, that is from the printable, as are those two banners that I have tucked in next to those florals. And I'm just working along trying to get this color positioned in a way that you can see it from behind all of those embellishments that I'm placing on it. I know that some of it's going to be covered up, but I don't want all of it to be covered up. So I keep bringing the embellishments in and taking them off and adding more color. And it took me a little while to get it just the way that I wanted it. So from this point forward, a lot of it is just me fussing with the different embellishments and just trying to fill in the layout to make it pleasing to the eye and just to get enough color on the background. I do bring in another die cut in the top left corner. And then that leaf that I added underneath that pink floral, that is from the printable as well. Now I'm just going through this die cut pack to see if there's anything else that I want to add in there. I want to try to make sure that I have the colors balanced between the cluster on the top left and the cluster on the bottom right. So while I'm playing around with the embellishments and still adding more color to the background, I'll talk about the photo a little bit. This photo was taken in Grand Haven a few years ago. I believe that we went there in 2013, and I have scrapbook photos from that trip previously. But we went to the beach there on Lake Michigan, and it was so beautiful. The weather was so nice this day, and we actually went with another couple, and they have two daughters that were close to Aiden's age. And this is just Aiden playing in the sand. There's not really too much of a story to go along with it. It's just us at the beach. And it was such a beautiful day. Now, this photo actually had quite a few people in the background, and I had to do a lot of editing to remove those people and to make it so it was just him in the photo. They were just people that were sitting on the beach or people that were in the water. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm curious though, for those of you that scrapbook, do you edit those type of things out of your photos, or do you just scrapbook photos as is? I have a whole pile of photos in my scrapbook room that I pre-printed when I used to print all of my photos from Snapfish, and I used to never edit my photos. I printed them however they were printed from my camera. I didn't change the color. The only thing that sometimes I would change is I would crop in, and I did use a lot of enlargements way back when. So some of my photos are even printed at 5x7, which I would very, very rarely use that size at this point in my scrapbooking. I do prefer the smaller photos. So I'm finding that I'm going back through these photos, finding the ones that I'm wanting to scrapbook, and then editing them and then reprinting them. So I have this original photo actually still upstairs in my scrapbook room, but I won't use it because it had all of those people in the background. And years ago, those things never would have bothered me. I would have just scrapbooked whatever I printed and went with it. So I'm curious, for those of you that scrapbook, do you edit your photos, or do you just print them and use them exactly how you take them? So getting back to the layout, I'm just working on adhering things down now, and I'm using lots of different adhesive. I did use my Xyron sticker maker to put adhesive behind the word suntan, and then I'm using foam dots for some things and then liquid adhesive for others. I don't really have too much of a rhyme or reason as to why I use certain types of adhesives where. I do prefer liquid adhesive really over any other type of adhesive, especially when I use mixed media, because I find that things do not stick to gesso or paint very well. So liquid adhesive is really my go-to. I also like that it is very permanent. Very often I will go back through my scrapbooks, and anything that I use a tape runner on, a lot of the times it's in the bottom of my page protectors because it loses its stick after a while, but I have never had any trouble with liquid adhesive, so it really is my number one. So now I'm trying to decide if I want to add any journaling to this layout. So I'm using a pencil first and just writing along the outside edge of that circle on the bottom left. I decide that I don't like it, so I erase it, and then I'm just going to use these navy blue stickers to spell out the words Grand Haven, just to put where we were. I am really wishy-washy on whether or not I include journaling on my layouts. Had there been a story to go along with this other than Aiden playing in the sand at the beach in Michigan, I probably would have added a little bit more, but I think that you can get the general idea of what's happening just by looking at the photo. But I did want to include where we were, and I'm also going to use those same stickers to put the year on the layout, and I'm going to put the stickers on the bottom right hand side. Again, I'm trying to balance the colors between the top left cluster and speaking of adding journaling to a layout, one of the reasons that I don't add it very often is because I don't really like the way that it looks. And one thing that has helped me, which is something that Paige Evans does quite often, is she does write it in a pencil first. So that way, if she doesn't like it, it's easily erased and you'll never know that you put it there. Had I written it in pen there first, I would have been in trouble because I did not like the way it looked. So if you're leery on placing journaling on your layouts, take that tip from Paige Evans and use pencil first to see if you like how it looks. So now I'm just adding some enamel dots from my stash just for some added color. And again, I'm placing them on the top left and the bottom right. Now I'm going to bring the layout a little bit closer to the camera. I did add some tissue paper behind my photo just to use it as a buffer between the background and the photo, just to help it stand out a little bit more. That orange heart that I added on the top left, that was from the printable also, and that was actually included in that little heart banner. I just went ahead and cut the banner apart to use the hearts as individual embellishments. So here are the still shots. Please remember to head to the Cut Shop's Facebook group so you can download this freebie printable. I'm also going to include a link to Cricut's website. They do have a lot of helpful information on print and cut if you'd like to head over and check that out. So I just want to thank you all so much for watching. I will be back again very soon with a new layout and process video. Bye.